It is the 26th day of April 2016. This is Morning Express, and thank you for staying with us. And joining me now on this set is Paul Wafula, who is an editor with The Standard, and well, to look at the newspaper review. Good morning, sir. And good to have you this bright and early.
Thank you.
And let's look at the dailies this morning, and as expected, of course, is to do with IEBC, Occupy IEBC, which was happening yesterday. But the headlines is Raila demo tear gassed.
I find this, I mean, it's the story of the day by all means, because this is a scenario where it was expected. We saw Raila the other day say, we are ready for tear gas.
Right.
And that story was carried yesterday even in the Standard. And so they went there at the Anniversary Towers expecting some
tear
action.
Gas.
Yes.
In fact, I remember, I think on the Standard, one of the things that we are ready for tear gas.
Yes,
so I guess this was expected, it was predictable, and it came.
But I expected them to, I mean, if you say you are ready, I expected you to last there for a few more minutes, which it didn't happen. I
no,
mean,
with the amount of tear gas that they had, I don't know if you've ever had an experience of tear gas yourself.
I mean, I've been at the front line reporting some of these things, and yes, I mean, tear gas sometimes get very nasty.
Man, it chokes you, and you almost cannot breathe, and it becomes, yeah, but wait, like you've mentioned, one would have expected that maybe they will picket a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, they will have prepared a lot better in terms of how to deal with tear gas. I remember, I mean, if you look at university students, how they deal with tear gas, they have ways of coming with water and everything and sorting it out. But of course, these ones, their strategy was to have their cars waiting somewhere very fast. Immediately the tear gas went. Some pictures were taken, and I mean, they were straight into their cars, and they disappeared into comfort zones.
Well,
but having said that,
makes me wonder sometimes, because I mean, I don't expect, especially that the leaders are going to stay there right through, because of course there's also security concerns. Once it becomes a bit of mayhem, it's also very risky for them to stay in that particular area. But I've always wondered, whenever there is a demonstration like that and there's tear gas, they always disappear, and it's the wananchi who are left to deal with ramifications of what's happening.
I think the leaders, and I mean, Raila has fought for this, for the country's liberation in many fronts for years. I mean, since he was 20s, and I mean, he has been in enough tear gas scenarios to know how this works out. But I think they are perfected the art. Once they are there, their point is made, and they disappear. I mean, we didn't see some of these, some of actually the strong code leaders were I think the rest were really in safe territory. So immediately this happens, you find the mwananchi wa kawaida who has come, I mean, to support this is the one who will stay on the street for a little bit longer. But this one will have
face the full arm of the law.
Yeah, I mean, and some of these police officers, once they are pushed, you do not know what they will do to you. Sometimes they will get a bit nasty to protect it. But I think in as much as we need also to control the issue of violence and breaking private property, people should be allowed to picket. I mean, when you tell, when police come out very strongly to say that they will not allow a demonstration, what are they saying? I mean,
it is a constitutional right.
It is a constitutional right. People should get out there and express their views. For them, the police, what they need to do is to ensure that this happens, and it happens within the law, and no damage to property is necessarily caused. That they can be able to do, and they were there very early in the morning. So either our police have not been able to be properly trained to be able to deal with demonstrations, because the only way of them dealing with this is always violence. They will come with tear gas, batons, and they'll beat up people. You saw what happened to the University of Nairobi students. I mean, people should be allowed to picket, and in this day and age, this issue of, and these are leaders, I mean, it's not fair at this day and age to see the Prime Minister being tear gassed. Seriously, he has done a lot for this country. There needs to be some level of decorum and respect, even for whatever it's worth. And whatever you're asking for, it's, I mean, it's reforms in the IEBC.
Absolutely.
And we have seen the chicken we have seen the chicken get scandaled.
You see, the question, Paul, might be, as much as that is the way, is that the way to go about it? Because there are legal ways within the Constitution of how to have the IEBC officers removed.
But you know, these are politicians. The politicians like this thing in the public domain. They like to get some sympathy. Like, for instance, I'm sure this seeing Raila being tear gassed will earn him a little bit more political mileage. We'll still see these images coming up over and over again. I mean, when an IEBC issue comes up, we'll see Raila saying, look, I've been asking for this. So
this is what I did.
Yeah, I mean, look at the next election for whatever it's worth. If something happened and the IEBC messed up Raila will be right on the front and saying, this is what I told you, this thing, you guys are going to mess it, So, I mean, it is safe for us to look at it for whatever it is, that the IEBC, I mean, everybody has agreed, generally speaking, that we need some reforms of the IEBC. The issue is, how do we get these reforms? I mean, the code fraternity has taken maybe the what you can say, the protest that really will not, however much they protest, however much they stay at anniversary towers, I don't think IEBC is going to go away.
They're not about to budge. And moving forward, according to CORD Secretariat leader Norman Magaya, he says that this is not something, it's not a one-off. They have not stopped picketing in this particular issue, and it's expected that every Monday they're going to be going to IEBC, although there was also another report saying that they'll go again today. I don't know how true that is, but according to Norman Magaya, every Monday they're going to be at IEBC to ensure that they are heard, and not just heard, but the IEBC commissioners are removed.
I think officially it's the weekly meetings on Monday. That's what I know of. Today's meeting, I'm not sure if it's really the consensus, but if it's there, maybe it will just be an afterthought. But having said that, I think what is important here to look at is we are not a country of people who resign. I mean, look at the IEBC. Some of these officials were named in various scandals, in the chicken scandals and others. These people were not moved. They didn't even ask to step aside so that the investigation is done. Some of them were in the list of shame. I mean, and all this. I mean, so it doesn't matter how much picketing that maybe CORD will do, but the right thing will be just to follow the constitutional ways of getting them out. Yes, let us picket as much as we can, but let us also follow the set down procedure, because I mean, we have fought for this constitution. The constitution provides for reasons of how to get out the IEBC. Right. So it's very simple. Let us go back to Parliament and use the legal channels to get them out. If that fails, maybe because of tyranny of numbers or whatever happens, then of course this other route may be justified. But I think it's time for IEBC to realize that if a referee, you know, even in a normal court process, even if a judge is really fair, you know, but if the parties to the case feel, you know, that justice is not being done, even if the justice was done, it may not work.
Leaves a lot of discomfort.
So everybody it is actually important that people think and they believe that the IEBC is properly constituted to run this election. But I think CORD also cries too much in terms of referee. I mean, right now what we need to be doing is really going down to mobilize. We didn't see CORD mobilize people during the voter registration as tough as they did.
Oh yes.
Yeah, I mean, I expected these guys to go down on the ground and push as hard as they can in their regions to get people to register as voters, which they tried, but they didn't do as much. I mean, so if you look at the numbers, they may not have achieved so much in terms of even bringing about the numbers that are critical to win this election. So that's what they should be doing. They should be going down on the ground and doing that. So that when you come to fight the referee, you have a strong team on your side. But if you are very weak, it doesn't matter how the referee will do. I mean, absolutely, you will still lose the election.
Well, let's wait and see how this is going to go, because it is one of those things that, of course, as we get closer to the 2017 elections, it is a matter of concern for all Kenyans, because it is necessary to have a referee and an arbiter who is seen to be fair to all sides. But also on the front page of the Standard, and this is something which is becoming more common than we would want it to be, a man kills parents over dream motorcycle. It looks like killing now has become something that is so easy. I mean, while we're still on this, there's also the incident of the KDF officer who killed his girlfriend and then turned the gun on himself. But this particular one is a man who killed his parents over a dream motorcycle, and it's because the parents were selling a piece of land, and instead of buying him the motorcycle for him to start a boda business, they wanted to pay for his sister, who's 19-year-old, to go to university.
I think this is really tragic and sad, because probably he felt like the most important thing for him was to start a business, and he felt like the sister did not deserve to go to school. This is really a sad story, and I mean, the story says that the gentleman went out to drink and came back, but the action he took is really, this is really a problem, as a society issue. As you said, you know, these killings, and nowadays someone will wake up and, you know, there is so much that is going on that really we need to look at, even just as a nation, in terms of really looking at the real needs of people. Look at the police. I mean, some of them really live in very traumatic situations, and anytime they feel they cannot do anything, they resort to maybe gun drama, and this happens many times, killing people and so on and so forth. But I think this is a sad family story, that hacking your parents to death.
Right.
You know, it's
very, very sad. And I mean, last week we were talking about stress right here on Morning Express, and we were saying that as a country we seem to be experiencing a lot more stress, and at the same time we are less resilient to some of the things that we have. Because I mean, this is if that is the issue, this is an issue that should have been solved amicably. They could have sat down and agreed that let's do this. What is fairer to do, without necessarily, you know, killing both your parents. I mean, with an axe is something unthinkable. It's a bit too far, because now he's likely to find himself behind bars. Now, how will he even get his motorcycle? I mean, he'll eventually end up losing everything. I think this is not the right thing to do. But there must have been something else going on, that this probably was just the thing that pushed him off the cliff. Right. Probably there was a lot more that was going on in his life, and that is how he felt he could express himself. So, but it's a tragic story anyway from so anyway, let's wait and see how that goes. Then man hacks his parent to death on page 3 is a continuation of that story. What else do we have? Let's see. There's also an elaborate story of police tear gas squad leaders outside IEBC offices, although like I said earlier, it was maybe predictable, because they had said we are ready for tear gas. We are going ready for tear gas. So I don't know if next Monday, if they keep to their word, whether they are also expecting tear gas on the same day. But anyway, moving on to page 11. Teams formed in counties to handle negligent medics, and this also is interesting based on the fact that, or a matter of concern, it's not just interesting, but a matter of concern, because we've also seen in Nakuru, there was a story that we did where there is disposal of medical equipment, which is really, really unprofessional, very dangerous, and would not expect that from the medical fraternity.
I mean, I think this is a very important move. If you looked at it, we did a major project on medical negligence, and it's something that is here for us to look at. I mean, doctors sometimes work in very difficult situations, but also there's a lot of mistakes that happen from at the hospital level. Look at the gentleman who died at Kenyatta waiting in ambulance for 18 hours, for instance. We've had so many cases where people have sometimes syringes and needles left inside their wounds, and I mean, they file a complaint and it takes years. I mean, the medical dentists and practitioners board, the committee that actually hears these cases, sees maybe 4 times a year, and in one sitting they may not do so much. They get out, close hospitals, and by the time they are leaving, the hospitals are already opened. I mean, so I think taking down to the counties may help solve some of these issues, and make it even more a little bit more accessible for the patients down there on the ground who may not be able to access Nairobi. But the other thing that needs to be looked at is actually the reforms, because you can't have the person who is accused again sitting down to listen to the case. I mean, if you're crying out loud, if I was a doctor and I understand the situation I work in, and a complaint comes against my fellow doctor, I will be a bit more lenient. But if you have a more neutral panel that looks at whatever it is for its merit, and not just because of the profession, then it will be a lot more better in terms of delivering justice to the victims. But this is a right step towards the right direction. I think just more needs to be done to ensure these teams are actually properly constituted, and they deal with these cases as fast as
possible, and with as much intent as required. Now on page 19 is that other story that I was talking about, where 6 hospitals are on the spot over medical waste disposal. And some of the hospitals' names is Aga Khan. I mean, some of these are big hospitals. Would not really expect them to be involved in this kind of thing. We'd expect that they have incinerators where they can get rid of some of this equipment. University Hospital, there is Egerton University, Family Care, Nairobi Women's Hospital, and Clinique, which are said to have disposed their waste in public areas.
I think this is just impunity. You cannot expect this from such kind of institutions. Okay, maybe the Nairobi Aga Khan may be a little bit more decent, but you know, Aga Khan has been opening up so many clinics across the country. Some of them are just basically a front office, and that's it. So they may not have those incinerators where they are. So maybe this is what ends up to to this kind of level. But I think the county officials must work a lot bit harder. We've seen really a lot is going on in terms of environment. We saw the other day some gentlemen who are arrested. I mean, you know how you drive in a bus and you get somewhere and you want to help yourself, and they stood beside the road, and there they were doing their things, and this health official, I think from Narok or Bomet, they came out and said, guys, finish what you are doing and let us move to the police station. So really this is what people should be able to be alive to in terms of environment. And this happens everywhere. You see people throwing litter outside their windows, you see paper bags all over, and I mean the consciousness that people should have in terms of
ensuring. And you know, I think we have left it to environmentalists to just fight that war, yet it is us who are actually going to suffer when this happens. So let's hope that can be dealt with. But of course it was a shocker to find hospitals now dumping their things, their waste, which of course is very toxic.
It is,
and very, very dangerous, and can spread disease extremely easy. I mean, we're talking about dialysis equipment, which of course has a lot of blood, has got needles. I mean,
it's just wrong. It's just wrong from all fronts, and I mean, any responsible hospital should be able to know how to deal with this a lot better. So I think the right action should be taken, and let some of these institutions be able to be asked to clean up the place, unless they can set up maybe a joint incinerator or how to dispose the denning, then some of them should be discontinued from operating these regions, because I mean, why should you have a hospital that is purporting to treat people and then at the other end it is actually creating
chaos? Absolutely. All right, finally on the Standard, I know you're a business editor, so you'd probably have a lot of information on this, and also knowing this, on page 6 of the pullout we have banking jewel, and this is why Chase caught the eye of mega lenders. And of course we do know that tomorrow is a big day for many Kenyans who possibly had lost hope, thinking their money has been lost in Chase Bank, but tomorrow it reopens.
This I think is one of the biggest stories in business that has happened this year, and it's quite a sad story that has turned out to be really
a good story.
And it's a great thing that actually Chase Bank comes back tomorrow, and we expect a lot of confidence, because KCB is a very strong bank, and being the ones that are behind it in terms of management, it should be able to give some comfort. We were expecting probably that there will be a bank run, but speaking to some of the customers who are loyal to the bank, I mean, they are saying we will want to support it. Some of them have actually told us, and the story is there, that they will not be able to withdraw their money, and if that happens, then Chase Bank's story will really be beautiful, because it will stay. But if people really panic, then that will be a problem. The only thing to look at is the type of customers they have, because you know, if you have 97% of your customers who have 1 million and below, and those ones have been allowed to withdraw all their money, if they withdraw all their money, will remain 3% of customers, and that cannot be a bank anymore. So we expect that if these customers can understand that probably they need to stay there a little bit longer, then you'll have the bank
staying. And now, from those that you spoke to, are they likely to bank run, you know, literally just go and withdraw all their money, or are they confident enough to know that now that the bank is being opened, to give it time to stabilize, and of course they continue with their bank of choice?
But I think what you need to look at is they might say that they want not to get the money, but you know, 2 weeks without money, some of them need to pay rent, some of them need to pay salaries. There are so many people who have not paid salaries, or I mean, these are not the kind of people who have a lot of liquidity on their hands to keep so much money in the bank. So they are the kind of people who are always using overdraft, so they are always, I mean, running short of cash. So I mean, they will want to keep the money there, but I don't expect them to keep it there long. I mean, they will go back, pick some of their money, and probably deposit later when they make their next paycheck. But having said that, I mean, it should be a mixed. I mean, not everybody will need that money so fast, and you won't go to the bank to withdraw 1 million to stay with it in the mattress anyway. So probably some people will be the first 2 days we expect some people to really rush to the banks and withdraw their money. Then KCB might be able to maybe top it up or whatever it is that they're able to raise, and then when people are so certain that this is happening, they stabilize.
Okay. Well, that's what we have for you on the Standard. Let's now look at the Daily Nation, where we have the headlines: tear gas as riot police block Raila's protest. Again, that story yesterday as they went to occupy IEBC to have the commissioners removed, and of course there was tear gas. The picture on the Nation there looks like Baba is literally crying.
It's really a sad picture if you look at it. I mean, it captures the moment. You can see all the tear gas has actually blurred out the buildings at the back, and Baba is there with his handkerchief being helped to walk away. I mean, and it's such a painful picture. If you look at it, the man is almost crying. So the point is made that he's interested in the reforms at IEBC, and when Raila starts some of these things, it's not easy.
He's not a quitter, so we are yet to see the end of this, and we'll see how it will end. Also, that story that we referred to, where a soldier kills lover and self after dispute, that's on the front page, and this is the Kenya Defence Forces soldier who shot and killed his girlfriend before turning the gun on himself in Kitui town yesterday.
It's another tragic story. I think we carried the story of the family in Kisii. These ones have a story of a soldier. It's all, I mean, the same narrative.
Very, very sad.
Solving disputes by death.
And by killing one another. Now, moving on to page 3, something that's been happening, and the travelers spend night on road in traffic chaos. There was a lot of chaos. That, I think, was from, I believe, Saturday night, if I'm not wrong, or Sunday, where there was a huge traffic snarl-up and a gridlock on the Mombasa road.
Something really needs to be done on Mombasa Road. You know, it's something that we write about, but you need to be there for 16 hours on the road. Then you will appreciate how tough it can get, because there's no moving, there is nothing, and the trucks keep coming and filing. There's a time we actually counted the number of trucks on the road one way, and there were about 1,800, and I was shocked.
In how many hours?
I mean, I left Nairobi and we were counting maybe just how many trucks were on the road
that you're passing.
That were passing, and there were really so many. So you can imagine 1 hour gridlock, how that will end up being. And by the time they're cleared, you are just messed up. So
and apart from the inconvenience, of course, is also the economic negative effect that it has. All those man hours, all those vehicles. I mean, it's just crazy.
Of course, I mean, maybe you paid for your cargo, it's going to Uganda, Tanzania, and it was supposed to be maybe 12 hours. You can imagine now you've made it 2 days. It's stuck there for whatever it is. It's maybe the Central Gate will go to remove some of these trucks on the road, but I think we have to deal with. I mean, where are police on these roads? Why can't they move as fast as we expect them to do in terms of when there's something that has happened as serious as this? They should move very fast. We have now counties have come up with very many. They have all patrol cars. They should be able to access the place very fast, solve the issue, and move the truck away, and let the traffic move to avoid this. It also happens a lot on the Nairobi-Naivasha highway nowadays. So you will survive the traffic on Mombasa Road and get stuck. Yeah,
I remember one gentleman giving me a very interesting scenario, which he didn't find very funny, and this is because he left Mlolongo going to just past Kangemi, and that's where he stays, and his mom left Kangemi going to Nakuru, and she got to Nakuru almost an hour before he had even been close to getting to Kangemi. Literally just, not even Mlolongo, I think it was from the airport actually. He got stuck on Mombasa Road just at the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, got stuck in town, then between town and Kangemi was, I mean, she got to Nakuru, rested, and you know, had even done a few things before he could even get home. This is ridiculous.
It happens all the time. Someone, I mean, is at the airport, is going to Mombasa, 45 minutes to Mombasa, you are at the same place coming to the CBD, you arrive 2 hours later. I mean, it's
or even the other way around. Sometimes you fly to Mombasa, because Mombasa has also become notorious for traffic. You take 45 minutes to fly into Mombasa, then maybe take another 2 hours just to get into to get out of the airport and into to do your business, which completely beats the whole purpose. Because sometimes you want to fly in, do whatever you have to do, and fly out by evening. But anyway, there you go. On to page 6. Another interesting story there. And Waiguru bid for an inquiry is opposed. Remember, she came out to say that she would want the president to form a tribunal and have a public inquiry, and she was saying because this is a matter of public interest.
This is just a matter of theft that should be proven in court or otherwise. So the issue of inquiry here, I mean, it's really ridiculous that we want even to consider going this route.
Going that route.
It's just an issue. If Waiguru is innocent, he should be able to prove that in court. If Kabura is lying, that should be proven in court, and the affidavit is out there to look at it. So I think they should fight this thing one way and stop politicizing it for whatever it's worth, because this just destroys the case, and it actually interferes with the whole process.
Absolutely.
I mean, you cannot keep ventilating on an issue that is already in court, and you keep making it a public issue. You draw in the president, you draw in everyone. I mean, it will be cheap for the president to actually come down to an issue of forming an inquiry to look at an affidavit.
And of course, for her, one would look at it as a way of just trying to vindicate her personal, you know, trying to get her name cleared on a personal level, which, like you've said, there is a court to do that. Yeah. So really, it's not necessary. And according to the lawyers, of course, they've said such an inquiry is expensive exercise and should be formed sparingly where questions of national importance have arisen. So this, of course, does not meet that threshold. And of course, well, it may not see the light of day. Page 10 of The Nation, 10 probe of woman in bedroom on fateful night. Of course, this was a very tragic and sad death of one of Kenya's marathoners, 10, and now still continuing in court. And apparently there are details of there having been another woman in the house on that particular day, which of course would be interesting.
Yeah, this is actually a very interesting development, because I mean, sometimes courts also provide us another avenue to really get some of these things that we may not have gathered. But it's really sad that there was probably someone else around, and maybe this might explain a lot more in terms of really what happened before he was pushed out of the balcony. And I mean, the story keeps evolving. I mean, now this is really interesting. I think it's a soap opera.
And it's one of those things that, I mean, it's so sad that death is final and cannot be reversed, because that was definitely a young man who was just at the bud of his career. Very sad to see him go the way he did. But anyway, the inquiry continues, and that is where we're going to wind up with The Nation. Let's now move on to The Star, where the headlines is NCIC identifies 19 counties that are at risk of violence in 2017. And of course, this is as we gear ourselves for the elections. And some of those counties, if I can just name them according to this article, it's Nairobi, Kisumu, Mombasa, Nakuru, Eldoret, Narok, Kericho, Kisii, Homa Bay, Isiolo, Turkana, Bungoma, Kiambu, Kilifi, Lamu, Migori, Baringo, and Pokot, which makes one wonder what is left.
It's interesting, because if you look at how the population of the country is actually structured, those are some of the most populous counties. And if you look at the map, you'll see the western part of the country, right from Turkana all the way down to Nairobi, Narok, and then Lamu, Mombasa at the very bottom. Also the hotspots. Then there's this section, the country outside Isiolo that is completely not a hotspot. So maybe that is a lesson that we need to look at in terms of what makes these other regions not hotspots and what makes these others. But I find it interesting that we have regions like Kiambu being said to be hotspots. Some of these places are fairly homogeneous, so we don't really, from a layman's perspective, you don't really expect a lot of violence from those regions. But this is a good place to start from. I mean, we need to plan in advance to be able to avert any of these issues that may come after election. And we shouldn't just talk about it, because I mean, 1,300 people died, and the IC process has come out with nothing. The least we can do is to prevent anything else that comes out next time.
And of course, as Kenyans, we really do not want to go back there. And we should make sure that not even our politicians are going to push us to the edge to a point where we have the 2007, 2008 election violence repeated. Moving on now to matters politics on page 8. 8 counties borrowed 2 billion without Treasury's approval. This is according to a COB report. And we have some of the counties named, and apparently they borrowed the money without approval and from Treasury, and also without security of this money.
You know, what happens here that is really sad is that people they just break the law. Because, you know, at the end of the day, if a county goes ahead and borrows this money and it defaults in this payment, eventually the taxpayer will be able to take that through the Treasury. Treasury will be forced to actually pay on behalf of these counties. So it's fair enough that counties, even as they come up with their borrowing plans, they should be able to find a way of being placed into a national outlook. Because if every county is borrowing, we have 47 of them, if they borrowed 50 billion each, you know, that will be a significant amount to be put on a borrowing bill. So I think it's fair enough that these counties are actually operating in the law. Borrowing is not necessarily bad, but it should be based on ability to pay and the reasons that are being put forward. And Treasury should actually be allowed to see and scrutinize why these counties are borrowing, because they have the capacity to do that. So I think if you look at some of these counties, Machakos, Kisumu, Nairobi, you will expect their leaders to be in a better position to understand really what the law says. So it's a shame that they got to this level. But I think Treasury has also asked banks that, look, you have given counties loans without our approval, and you know the law. It's also you to take responsibility. So I think banks have been asked to recover the loans very fast from the counties, so that nothing really happens out of this. But it's an interesting story. Let us see how it plays out.
Well, we do have the governor for Machakos County, Alfred Mutua, as our person of interest today. So hopefully we should be able to ask him, whether he's aware, and if he is, why he would go to that extent. I mean, it is clear.
Machakos has done fairly well in terms of development, and he has been seen to be doing one or two things right. So the fact that he's being caught on the other side of things, he should be able to explain really what is going on. He appears to always say that he follows the law and he respects the law. So yes, when he comes on the show, I will expect to get some answers from him in terms of really why was he borrowing in the first place.
Exactly. And I mean, there's already such a huge budget to the counties from the national kitty. Why would they be borrowing now from banks and then going through the process of borrowing the money without, first of all, getting Treasury to approve it, and secondly, without even the county authorities approving?
You look at it as a scenario whereby, one, either they are afraid that the Treasury will never approve them because they are borrowing for maybe
reasons that are not good enough
for the current, or probably they just feel like their counties are independent. They don't need to come to the national government again to borrow. I mean,
which of course brings the question of accountability, because really, if by law you're required to have that, or just good governance, good practice, for you to have the Treasury approve that, it's for them, of course, to audit and tell that you can pay. The same way, if I wanted to go and take a loan, they would have to look at how much income do I have, what is my expenditure, am I able to pay that loan when I say I can pay it. Absolutely. All right, finally on the Star, will former registrar be the next Western Gishu senator? She looks like she could be making a comeback, and this is on page 24 of the Star this morning, where we have the former registrar Gladys Bose Sholei. Following her unceremonious exit from the judiciary, she is now plotting a possible political grant entry.
I think it's an interesting story for her. I mean, everyone has a political ambition and a right to
to explore that ambition.
I mean, and having her background in the judiciary and so on and so forth. I mean, the Senate will be an interesting place for her. So let's see how she plays out. But I think anyone today who leaves a public service, look at people who left HELB, who left NEC, who left plum jobs in government. The place they are all going to is politics. This says a lot. I mean, it says a lot that even when the politicians say that they are not being paid well enough, there must be really something in politics.
Absolutely. And of course, one of the things they are likely to say and claim is the people have asked me to do this.
Of course, it's always
I spoke to Joshua Sang last Tuesday, and that was the same thing. He said it's the people who have said that I should go for either gubernatorial or senatorial seat, and if the people decide, then I shall just go.
Sad for people like me and you. I mean, we never
have any people saying that.
Look, come and help our people.
I don't know how. Maybe anyway.
It's very selective.
It's very selective, and I don't know how they manage to garner and get also the information from the people, because I don't know if the people come and say, look, Wafula, we need you to be our leader.
They say, these people always come and beg. It's always, I mean, I'm taking this because I don't want to disappoint my people.
Yes, my people. And of course, that brings out the question, then if it is the people saying, what is your vision for these people? Because if it is the people, then you'd expect then possibly it's the people that have the vision and not you, which becomes a worrying factor. All right, finally, on the Business Daily, Treasury backs CA board in quest to have Airtel pay 2 billion license fee. And that's on the headline.
This is really an interesting story, and it really turns the thing on board. I mean, upside down for the Communication Authority. We've had last week the Communication Authority Director General Francis Wangusi coming and saying that some of his board members were asking for a bribe from Airtel. And now it appears that, I mean, there is more than meets the eye. And I mean, we let us wait and see really what happens. But it's really sad. You know, the Communication Authority is one of the best places to be in terms of raising revenue, because a license is really expensive. And if directors or men can walk into Airtel buildings and demand for a bribe so that they can renew the license, that tells really how far we've gone. So some of these things should be moved swiftly and looked at, because there are letters, there's if there's some evidence, a director general cannot just come and say something that is unsubstantiated, like people asked for a bribe, and let him not be asked to go and really say more than this. I mean, if someone else stood up and said something like that, it would be taken with a pinch of salt. But him, where he sits, he's in a position to really give more answers, especially to the investigators, and let us get to the bottom of this.
All right, moving on to page 3, and it looks like malaria is becoming a matter of concern now. Patients risk lives by failing to take critical anti-malaria tablets as disease marches on. And I remember there was a time it was very critical when you're going to a malaria-prone area. For instance, Mombasa or Kisumu, where you have huge water bodies. One of the requirements or recommendations was that you take anti-malaria tablets, which of course would prevent you from getting malaria later. But it looks like people are slacking up.
I think the malaria story is really sad. That, I mean, 40 years after independence, we're still talking about malaria. I mean, it's something that we need to look at heavily and just invest and stop relying so much on donors and other people to do the vaccines for us. We need to look at it even as a continent and see how do we sort this out, because it's really our issue. And we have, it's still one of the top killers in the country. I mean, after some of these other conditions caused by pneumonia and others. So we need to take it seriously and see how to sort it out, and probably reduce that
those numbers. And in this day and age, to be suffering from malaria is